Okay. Bismillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Peace and blessings and praise be upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on Rasulullah, and upon his companions and those who followed them. Okay. Wa ala alihi, and on his family and those who follow them. Ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Okay. So last time we were doing the review, again, early Meccan history of the Seerah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been given prophethood at the cave of Hira. There was a phase of private proclamation where the Islam was spreading, but just privately in very private settings. And that didn't bother the Quraysh very much. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to publicly proclaim Islam and the message of Islam. And then that really rattled the Quraysh, and they wanted to stop the Muslims and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from propagating the message of Islam. Okay, and we learned as to why, because they didn't want the whole economic system to be destroyed. They didn't want to lose their position of power. So they were wanting to completely quell and shut down the movement. Okay, and they had employed strategies to stop the spread of the message of Islam. And the first strategy was the obvious strategy, where the chieftain of the Banu Hashim, one of the sub-tribes of Quraysh, Abu Talib, who was the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was the one protecting him. He had not converted, so they continued to use him against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, asking him to go and talk to your nephew, make him stop. He's not listening to us. He's destroying everything that we have. And they told lies against him, but that didn't work. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not listen. And then they started to ban the recitation of the Quran. They start to ridicule Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Muslims. They start to discredit Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and call him names such as crazy, fortune teller, magician, all these things. This is a poet, and they had employed all these kinds of strategies. They told the Hujjaj, the Hajis that were coming to Medina, telling him, no, he's a crazy person. Hey, there was going to be a person who's going to be preaching to you. Don't listen to him because he's crazy. He's mad. He's a madman. And they used to stop him from that. And then here we continue with some of the strategies today, which is they then continue to challenge Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to show miracles. They're like, oh, okay, fine, you're a prophet. Tell us what you can do. Do something amazing, okay? Why can you have water burst from earth? Can you gush out a spring? This is in the Quran. Because in their minds, in their small minds, a prophet is the one who does miracles. If he doesn't do anything physically amazing, then how can he be a prophet? How can he be a prophet? So they asked for that. Of course, they would not believe in it, because even if don't you see magic shows? Somebody who does something really, really amazing in front of you. Aren't you going to think that that's magic? That can't be real, right? You are, that's an illusion. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this in the Quran, where even to Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, the people around him, they asked him, hey, you're a prophet. Okay, fine. Can you bring a table from the sky, the table with food and a feast from the sky? And Isa alayhi salam got really shy, but he still, after insistence from the people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them promise that, okay, fine, I'll send you a feast from the sky. But if you don't believe after that, then you will be punished with a severe punishment. One thing we learn from the Quran, remember this point, remember this point. If you ask for a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before you believe. Say, I'm not going to believe unless I see a miracle. If you ask this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and after that you don't believe, you will be punished the worst punishment. Okay, that's what we learned. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew that. So he used to never show them those kinds of miracles. But did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have miracles? He absolutely had miracles, but they were not miracles that he would use for to prove his prophethood to other people. Does that make sense? He didn't show off the miracles to prove his prophethood so people would convert. Did he have miracles? Yes. Do any of you remember some of the miracles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he did?
When the palm trees bow down to give shade to him.
That's right. That's right. Okay, great. What are some of the other examples?
Wasn't the tree he used when he was doing Jummah khutbah after he stopped using it, it started to cry?
Yes, another miracle, exactly.
Wasn't the Quran itself a miracle?
Sure, we will talk about that later. What else?
When he went to
Wasn't there a spider that covered up the cave entrance to prevent them from finding?
Sure, yep, that's right.
to his foster mother, all the date trees and all that.
Yep, that's right, exactly.
Isra wal Miraj.
Sure, exactly. But that was private. That was a miracle only for him. Nobody else could witness it, right? So what were some of the other miracles that other people can witness? Water would come from his hands many times during the Seerah, because people were thirsty, they were in the middle of the desert, there was nothing, so that he would ask for a little bit of water and suddenly it would become like a pool and water will gush out from his fingers. So that happened several times. He would make little amount of food, a lot of food where thousands of people could eat at the same time, but he didn't do that all the time, only in dire circumstances. But
Isa alayhi salam also with the food thing?
No. Isa alayhi salam, the few miracles that we know. So Isa alayhi salam came at the time, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came at the time of ultimate peak and power with reaching a perfection of language, Arabic and poetry, right? So he came around that time. And what did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam come with? Quran, which was also speech and language, but it blew away anything, it overshadowed anything that the human beings at that time were capable of, right? Similarly, Isa alayhi salam came at the time which was the peak of medicine, but Isa alayhi salam came with miracles that were also medicinal. They at that time did not have cure for leprosy, for example. And Isa alayhi salam would rub his hands over it. This is one of the other reasons why we call him Masih. Masih means somebody who rubs the hand over something to anoint or just to rub the hand. So he used to cure the lepers. He used to cure the blind. He used to cure all kinds of diseases. He even would bring dead people back to life, right? So those were some of the miracles. So at the peak of medicine, here comes a prophet who is able to overshadow anything that the other people had. Musa alayhi salam, for example, it was the peak of magic at that time in front of the Pharaoh. Remember the story where all the magicians, Pharaoh called all the magicians and they were doing this amazing magic and making snakes out of ropes. But what miracles did Musa alayhi salam come with? Ultimate magic, right? So you get the idea, right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had the same thing, but his ultimate miracle was the Quran, as some of you pointed out. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did have miracles, lots and lots of them. There are many books on the miracles of and the proof of the Prophet of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're called Ijaz al-Quran. There are many books written on it. There's one written in many volumes. I forget its name. That book has listed, like, I don't know, I think 100, but I almost want to say 1,000, like the list of 1,000 miracles that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, unique miracles that he did. Splitting of the moon was another one. Okay, there's not a lot of detail around that. But anyway, you guys get the idea. So the Quraysh challenged him with miracles, but Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam refused to do miracles just to prove his prophethood. Again, you can read into it. He wanted to do it as a mercy to people because he knew that if he had shown a miracle and people would still not believe, they would be severely punished, right? So Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not want that. Make sense?
Adnan,
Yes.
a quick question. Are these miracles or were these miracles mediated through Angel Jibreel alayhi salam?
Sure, some of them would have been like, splitting of the moon. I am not personally, there's not a lot of detail about the splitting of the moon. But some people say it's in the Quran, yes, which exactly it is. The moon was split, or the moon will split. But did that actually happen? There's not a lot of details. There's not a lot of authenticity around some of those details. But did Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, your question is, do these miracles with the help of Jibreel alayhi salam? Absolutely, he would have. Yeah, these aren't. But we don't know if all of the miracles were with the help of Jibreel alayhi salam. We don't know how he did the miracles. Some of the miracles that he did, we don't know. Okay. How did the water come out of his hand? How did he make a little amount of food so much food? How did he make a little amount of milk so much milk that hundreds and thousands of people could drink milk? How could trees bow down, or trees talk to him? How would all these things happen? So we don't know. Wallahu a'lam. Okay. So moving on, is that okay? Does that make sense? So Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was not a prophet of physical miracles. Oh, another thing that I want to just highlight before we go, before we move further. Physical miracles, something that's visual, like the parting of the sea of Musa alayhi salam, right? You all have seen that movie. What is it called? Jim Carrey's movie? What is it? What is it? I forget. Anyway, funny scene in it about parting of the sea, right? Where he splits his coffee, his soup or something. Anyway, so that just occurred to me. I thought I'd make you guys laugh, but that didn't work, I don't think. Okay, so parting of the sea of Musa alayhi salam was a fantastic visual sight, you can imagine, right? Here's the sea, you part it, millions of tons of ocean water just suddenly parts and paving dry land where people can walk through, right? And walk across to the other bank, to the other side. Were you there? Did you witness it? Was I there? Was anybody else there now to witness it? No, it's just a story now, correct? You either believe it or you don't believe it, but it's just a story. Are you going to now use that as a proof of his prophethood now? Can you? No. So a lot of the physical, visual miracles are inferior, okay? And I'm not saying that out of disrespect, but I'm trying to give you a concept, which is a very Islamic concept, that all of those other miracles that some of the previous prophets were given were for those people around that time who actually witnessed it. The pharaohs of the world and the Bani Israel of the world, where they saw Musa alayhi salam do all these phenomenal miracles, right? It was for those people and for that point in time. But now, what did Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the miracle that he left us with is the Quran, right? And of course, I can go on and on about how miraculous the Quran is. You wouldn't really know unless you do deeper studies of the Quran and you understand the language. But we all know about the scientific miracles in the Quran, although they are not, the Quran is not a book of science, but there's amazing prophecies in the Quran and amazing scientific facts and amazing stories and powerful stories and the articulation and the language and so much in the Quran. It's a living miracle that is still with us. We can still read it, we can feel it, we can feel its power, we can try to contemplate on it, And then, just the way it's recited, for example, it's a miracle. Just people, non-believers listening to the Quran, how they become believers. Just listening to the adhan, how they become believers, right? So there are so many miraculous benefits of the Quran and the healing power of the Quran. And if you read the Quran on the sick and how they become better and those kinds of things. So Quran it's called a living miracle. You see how it's different from a visual, physical miracle for the people at that time, and how Quran is a living miracle that we can still benefit from today. So that is the power of the Quran. Okay, so moving on. Then another strategy that they employed was bribery, where they wanted to bribe Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Hey, we'll give you any woman you want. You can marry as many women as you want. We can make you king. And if you were sick, we will take care of you. We will we'll make you king. Yes, we are a lot of sub tribes, but will you make you king of all of our sub tribes? And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, of course, did not give in. So the bribery didn't work. Here's just a few stories. One story I do want to highlight. One thing that they said, okay, this is important for you to remember, especially because you all know Surah Kafirun. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying, I will never worship what you worship. Why did he say that surah? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveal that surah and ask Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to tell the Quraysh this? Is because they were telling him, okay, we will believe in you one day, and you believe and you do idol worship the other day. We can compromise. How about that? That way we will not bother you, we will not hurt you, and we will believe in you some days, and you believe in us as long as you believe in us some other days, as long as you let us be, and we will let you be. So that didn't work. So that's why Surah Kafirun came down. So that strategy didn't work. And then they send a lot of smart people to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam trying to convince him, but Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam kept reciting Quran to them, and they were just dumbfounded, and then they ran away, or they got scared of listening to the ayat because they were just so powerful. Again, the miracle of the Quran. And for example, here you can see that somebody said, a guy who was completely blown away from the Quran, that he has bewitched you. It seems like he's bewitched everyone, because they were just blown away. They're like, one of the most powerful, eloquent people. For example, somebody so eloquent that there's no way anybody else could argue with him. And you recite the Quran to him, and that person is dumbfounded and can't say anything anymore. And then he just goes away because he has no response. So that was the feeling. So they tried all these strategies. Then they tried to test Rasulullah. So okay, fine. These things are not working. Let's see if he really is a prophet. So they went to the Jews and Christians, because they knew that Rasulullah is coming with stories similar to the Jews and Christian stories. So they went to the Jews and Christians and said, can you give us a test? And then they asked him, they told him, okay, if he's a prophet, then he has to know about Yusuf alayhi salam. He has to know the story of Joseph. Go ask him. And then Rasulullah did not, that surah was not revealed. So Surah Yusuf came down. The story of Joseph came down in detail. So Rasulullah passed their test. Then they again went to they asked, the Jews and Christians asked, told the Quraysh to ask Rasulullah 3 questions, okay? Who were the young men who entered the cave and slept for a long time? Who was the man who traveled around the world? And what is ruh, the spirit, made up of? What is the essence of the ruh? So as you know, the answers to the top 2 questions are in Surah Kahf, right? The story of the people of the cave. You guys know that story? One day, inshallah, we'll come to that story and we will read it. The second is the man who traveled the world. Who is that, by the way? Does anybody know?
Wasn't that Hijr? The guy who was like,
Khidr, you mean Khidr? No, it's not Khidr. His name is Zulqarnain. Zulqarnain, the one of the two horns. He traveled. The story is in Surah Kahf. We can talk about that as well later on, inshallah. So that story was revealed about Dhul-Qarnain going from east to west and traveling the world and building that big dam and protecting the people from the Gog and Magog, the Yajuj and Majuj. He protected the people from that. I don't know if that rang a bell in somebody's head. Okay.
Isn't Yajuj Majuj, isn't that one of the signs of the Day of Judgment?
It is. It is. Yes.
So those are gonna come back.
Yes. Exactly right. Then
And didn't some scientists, I think they included Alexander the Great to.
Yeah, correct. A lot of scientists, or not scientists, a lot of people think that it was Alexander the Great, the Dhul-Qarnain. Nobody really knows who he was, okay, in history. But a lot of people think it was Alexander the Great. It was not Alexander the Great. And there's many reasons why it could not have been Alexander the Great. First of all, was Alexander the Great a good person or was he kind of deviant? Huh?
Didn't he kill a lot of people?
Yeah, he was
No.
like,
Yeah, he was pretty deviant, okay? He married his mom, okay? So so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks very, very highly of Dhul-Qarnain. So for many reasons, among this one, it wasn't Alexander the Great. A lot of people think it could have been Cyrus the Great, who was one of the emperors or whatever in Persia around that time. So some people think it could be Cyrus the Great, but there's some evidences against that too. But the reality is nobody really knows who Dhul-Qarnain was, okay? Could have been a Viking for all we know. I don't know, the one with the two horns. So it could be anybody. Wallahu alam. It doesn't matter who it was. Again, when you read the stories in the Quran, it doesn't matter. What we're supposed to focus on is the moral of the story, okay? Anyways, so moving on. That's not our topic for the day. Then what is the ruh made up of? And then the response to this was given, because if this was an interesting test from the Jews and Christians for Rasulullah SAW, because Jews and Christians know that they don't even know what the ruh is, what soul is, right? Not really defined. So if Rasulullah gave a wise answer that he could describe the soul, then they would go, aha, see, he's not a prophet, right? The response to this question came in Quran. It's in Surah Al-Isra, that they ask you about ruh. What is ruh? Tell them it is nothing but a command of Allah. Ruh is the command of Allah. Okay, let me just show you. This might be interesting to you. Okay. So here in Surah Al-Isra, okay, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. They ask you about ruh, what ruh is. قُلِ الرُّوحِ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. Tell them that the soul is nothing but a command, an affair of your Lord. وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And you have not been given knowledge, and you have not given much of knowledge, except very little, okay? So this was the response that came down. All right, moving on. So we know the three questions now. Then around the fourth year, so how long was the private proclamation period? It was about 3 years, okay, 2.5 to 3 years. So after that, the public proclamation began, and that and all these strategies, and then the torture began. That lasted for about 2.5 years. Okay. So who were being tortured? The poor people, those who did not have strong bonds, the slaves who had converted to Islam. And these are the weak people that could not be supported by other tribes, other tribal systems, because like I told you earlier, that if you are part of the tribe, then the tribe is protecting you, but you have to be from the tribe. If you are a slave, or you are a freed slave, or you are somebody external to the tribe, nobody will protect you. So these were the people that were being tortured, and many people got tortured with different kinds of ways. Very quickly, since this is just a review, they were stabbed, they were locked up, they were starved to death, their skins were being scraped off with metal, with burning metal. Lots of horrible and terrible things had happened. They were crucified. They were, what should I say? What's the word? Impaled. They were impaled. And the first person to be a martyr in the path of Allah was also a woman, and her name was Sumayya. Her husband Yasir, in front of her son Ammar. Okay, so the first person to convert to Islam was a woman, Khadija radiallahu anha. The first person to die in the path of Allah as a Muslim under the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was also a woman, and her name was Sumayya. So let's see. If I want to highlight anything else, there's some stories here. And then a lot of them early Muslims, they were tortured so much. They came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asking him, when is this going to end? When is this going to stop? And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them stories that people before you were tortured even worse than this. Okay, and this is nothing. And just be patient, because there will be a day very soon to come when a woman will walk a great distance in the middle of the desert, not fearing anything except an animal that might come, and afraid of an animal like a wolf or something. I forget the exact hadith, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded that it would be such a safe society very soon, where you could walk, a woman alone could walk a long distance journey and not be scared for her life. All right. So in order to protect themselves from the torture, these few Muslims, about 40 of them or so, 30, 40 of them, were asked by, were given an option by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and indirectly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you should migrate away from Mecca, because there's nobody protecting you. You don't have a visa, basically, right? You're a illegal alien and you're being tortured. Okay, so you guys need to emigrate. And then a recommendation came that people should emigrate to Habasha, to Abyssinia, which is Ethiopia now. Okay, and you guys know the map of where Ethiopia is? Okay. You see this little thing right here? Is it easy to cross? It's relatively easy to cross, right?
Isn't it a long distance?
You come from Mecca down to Yemen, and then you can go cross into Africa, and then you go to Ethiopia. Yeah? Say that again?
Did Ethiopia own Eritrea and Djibouti at that time?
No, of course not. These are modern names.
No, but like back then, was Ethiopia all that area too?
Of course, yeah. This land structure didn't change. Yeah. So you come down, and if you don't want to have a long oceanic trip, right, you can go from here, and you don't have to have a fancy boat or a big, you can probably cross this in an hour or something like that. I don't know. All right, so this is how people used to travel to Ethiopia. Actually, that's how some of the Africans used to travel back into the Arabian Peninsula for business, right? So some of them became slaves, some of them became, business. So anyway, so this is how the people from Africa used to go into the Arabian Peninsula and back and forth. So the tortured Muslims, the persecuted Muslims, they had traveled to Ethiopia and it was being ruled by, at that time, Ethiopia is a new name. Okay? So it was called Abyssinia at that time. So it was being ruled by a negus. Negus is, again, a fancy term for, it's saying either emperor, it's the Ethiopian Abyssinian way of saying emperor or Caesar, right? Not Caesar. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, you guys get the idea. But just like we say Pharaoh, and Pharaoh is, just a title given to there were lots of different pharaohs. So Negus was the name, and his actual name was Ashama. And they went to Ashama, and then he gave them protection. So Muslims were living in a foreign land as migrants, but then they came back because something had happened. And then we will talk about that very quickly. A very, very famous incident. Oh, actually, we can't talk about it. I need to give you guys a break, and we will talk about that story, inshallah, next time. I will give you, since we're running a little bit, is it okay? 5 minutes? Okay, I'll see you guys at, let's come back at 12:10, okay? 12:10 sounds good? All right, 12:10 it is. See you guys in a bit, inshallah.